Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus, we're going to talk about adding wellness programs to your PT practice with Christi Riley here, who is the owner of Kintsugi Physical Therapy, and that is in Normandy Park, just outside of Seattle. And Christi's going to talk about how she's built and marketed wellness programs like pilates rehab, stretching classes, yoga, massage therapy, nutrition. So these different wellness programs, it's really something that Christi has implemented into Kintsugi Physical Therapy. And I'm excited to have her share her story with you all. So Christi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So before we get into the wellness programs, I have to ask, can you share about Kintsugi Physical Therapy's name and what that means?
Yeah, so Kintsugi is actually a Japanese art form. It's the process of repairing broken pottery by using usually gold. Sometimes they'll use silver and platinum, but they use gold lacquer. And the idea behind that is that everybody has brokenness in their lives in some aspects, whether it's physical or mental or emotional or spiritual. And so the idea is that you can find strength and beauty even in our brokenness and our imperfections, and that we can grow from these basically life challenges.
That's excellent. And I've seen that pottery before, but I didn't know the name. So now I know the name, and that's really cool that you took that philosophy and you've applied that into what you do to help people repair their lives, right? And so how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, it's funny you ask. Actually, one of my long-time patients she's also a graphic designer. She's the one that came up with the name for me. I was contemplating opening my own practice, and it seemed like every cool name was already taken and trademarked, and I didn't really want to pick a name that was based on the city in case I grew and went to other cities, and then I didn't really want just my name being the name of the company, because it's not really about me. It's about everyone that works there. So basically, she's the one that came up with it. And initially, I was kind of against it because I was like, I'm not sure that people would remember the name of that, let alone be able to pronounce it. And so I didn't really like that at first. But when I dug deep into the meaning, I realized, oh my God, this is exactly what I do. And she's the first one to basically tell me that I'm one of the very first practitioners she's ever found that actually looked at her as a whole person and didn't just look at her as a piece of her body. And she wasn't told by me that it's all in her head or that it's just aging. And so she really felt like I understood looking at her entire person and finding the root cause of her issue and really addressing these particular things is how she actually ended up healing and improving. So she is the reason why I chose that name, and it's taken off. It's been amazing. It's definitely a topic of conversation every day. So
I bet it is, especially when you
yeah.
explain that to patients, it probably makes a lot of sense to them, right?
A lot of people find us because they love the name. So
That's awesome. I love it. And so how does that reflect your philosophy and how you treat and how you approach patients' care?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've been practicing for almost 30 years now, and what I've realized is, especially a lot of patients who are more difficult because they have multiple things going on. They're just not just a knee and not just an ankle or a hip or whatever. And so they've been seen by multiple healthcare providers. And as I said before, they've been told that oh, you're getting old, or oh, it's all in your head, and or just getting medicated. And they didn't really want that. It's not the journey that they're trying to go on for healing. And so what I realize is what's really missing is looking at the entire person in their not just physical issues, which are usually biomechanically driven, but also their emotional health, their mental health, their spiritual health, and essentially everything that makes them who they are. Because every one of them come with different backgrounds and experiences that challenge their body in certain ways, whether they're, going through menopause or just had a baby or stressful with teenage kids so it really makes a difference because their journey really determines how they experience their pain. And based on that, it really determines how they're going to heal from that. So once I kind of realized that was the missing piece, and then the other thing that we as PTs don't seem to do really well is recognize there are people that need to be treated on a preventative side and the aftercare side. And we just focus on the rehab side. And so when I looked again at what we do from beginning to end, it really is a circular pattern of healthcare, and it really doesn't end, right? And so,
Yeah.
because their stages just keep changing. You know, I've had patients from 20 years ago that have seen me as kids, and now they're experiencing parenting and motherhood and pregnancy. And, you know, there's just this journey that's beautiful, and they are just thinking, oh, I'm just getting old. And it's not really just that, right? There is some component of that, but it's not just that. So being able to manage that whole thing is really what I wanted to incorporate in our clinic. And at the same time, not creating a burnout situation for my staff.
Yeah, and I've been a PT now for probably over 25 years, and so I see us having really changed in the profession in that time too. Towards, it used to be very segmented, like you looked at a body part, like, we can treat this body part, you can't touch anything else, right? And now we've been swinging, and I do see the very successful clinics that are approaching this from a bit more of a holistic approach, where they are looking at how can we help this person. We know when we're treating a patient that, if it's a knee pain, we got to look at the hip, we got to look at the ankle, we got to look at the back, right? Because we know that that's not really the root cause there. We have to go beyond that. But then being able to incorporate other services that help support that patient in a full journey, and the clinics that are embracing that philosophy of this, we should be their physical therapist for life, right?
Correct.
And we need to get away from that old school mentality of, like, we discharge you, you should never have to see us again, right? Because that's not the truth, right? People, like you said, go through different phases in their life when they don't need you and then they do need you, right? And so we should always be there for them, and how we keep connected with those patients is the way that we build a successful practice on the growth of referrals from our patient base, on reactivations from our patient base, so that we can help them again. And I really love what you've done of looking at how can we incorporate other services that support this person after their initial, rehab phase. And we can get into that a little bit later here. But so, you've kind of gone with this really interesting vision here for Kintsugi Physical Therapy. So how did you kind of come across this, and kind of where do you see yourself going with this vision?
Yeah, so the vision would be that we would be recognized not only by our community, which is what, where I spend majority of my time treating, is the community around here, but with that we would be considered leaders in providing the most integrative and comprehensive holistic program for the patients, and encompassing that prehab model, which really is prevention, all the way through the rehab, and then the aftercare wellness model. So that we are considered their PTs for life, and not just, you're the PT for my knee, and I go to a different PT for my shoulder, and, and just giving the patients and the community back that, I guess it's more of their autonomy, that they get to choose where they go, and they're not being dictated by the doctors or the insurance. Just knowing that it's the education piece that they don't know. Patients don't know they have direct access, and so they're waiting for referrals and prescriptions. And I'm always constantly educating the community on the fact that they have direct access. Even Medicare, it's just we do require a signed plan of care, but there's nothing that says we need a referral. So, there are still some insurances that are still very specific, but for the majority of the insurances out there, they have free access here in Washington State. And, as PTs, we really do need to kind of practice on the model of being a primary care physician for those, biomechanical and, neurologically based issues that we are the best at treating. A lot of times they go to their primary care physician and they just give them medications and or write a referral for PT anyway. So why not cut that out and just bring them directly to us? We can do the evaluation assessment and determine whether or not they belong here or they need to be referred out. I spend so much of my time referring patients out to other professions and other healthcares because they're either not, where they need to be with me, or they could use some support system. I have a village of healthcare providers treating me every day, so I could do everything I need to do. And so patients also need that. It's not a one and done deal. Sometimes you need to approach it at multiple angles. And so if we can get the community to understand and educate that, and, be the leading provider in that, then we can also get other healthcare professions on board too. And if other healthcare professions understand that we are a source of just referral network for everybody, and then they recognize us as a desirable business. And so we just continue to keep growing. And this is where we kind of cut out that high burnout rate that's going on in the healthcare profession, because they're actually doing what they love and treating people, the type of patients that they love to treat. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I think if we look at what is available out there to service our communities, if we look at prior to COVID, there was a significant growth in the wellness space, right? That people were looking for more solutions for their health. People have a bit more of a fitness mindset. It became more normal to pay out of pocket for wellness, taking care of yourself. And then we've seen after COVID, that just exploded, right? And so the medical model we all know it's like under significant strain, from hospitals to physicians. And so getting in to see a doctor can take forever, right? And so we have a very unique opportunity here in physical therapy, where we've got the tools today to get in front of a lot more people in the community that are searching for help, and be able to have them come directly to us now to service them and help them. And there's a lot of people out there that are willing to go beyond their regular insurance and medical model to get wellness help, right? To take care of their bodies. And so I think there's a huge opportunity here in our space to transform what we're doing and transform the practice model to go beyond being so dependent on insurance, right? It's always going to be part of what we do to a certain extent. But how can we incorporate other things that give us a bit more control, a bit more freedom in the ability of the direction of our practice?
Right. And as most people have found out, that our insurance programs do not really cover everything that they need, and or to the extent that they need it. It's really based on a sick care model and not a healthcare model. And so they're starting to understand, is again, with more education and understanding of what's available and out there, they are starting to take more of a proactive approach to their health and take some ownership in that. And really, a lot of patients that I have come through and they're like, oh, I should have come earlier. I know I should have come earlier. I should have done this, should have done that. They just were waiting on a referral or things that they didn't actually need. And so again, just really educating the patients and getting them to understand that you are in full control of your healthcare. You determine how much money you're going to spend or not. And if you're willing to spend $8-10 a day on Starbucks coffee, I'm sure you can find some money in there for one visit a month, So.
Right. I love that philosophy. So let's talk about your wellness programs that you created in your practice. And so can you give me a quick rundown of what wellness programs you currently have and they're active at Kintsugi Physical Therapy?
Yeah, so probably the most popular one is massage. I mean, who doesn't love massage, right?
Right.
But we've also added Pilates and yoga, and we have a stretch program. And then we also have nutrition and weight management. We do have a supplement education recommendation component. I partner with a company that then does a lot of education for patients. And so I don't have to be the expert in all the supplements. Let's face it, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And really the important things I teach my patients is to make sure that it's sourced correctly with good products, and that it's, actually giving you what you need, and that your body can actually absorb it. And some people are just buying crap they see online. So I'm like, if you're going to pay that much, you might as well pay this much and get it from a source that is good.
Yeah.
And so getting the education piece on that was huge. We do have other cash pay programs that are somewhat in the rehab / into fitness category, like our running analysis and our golf fit program. So again, those are all things that we offer, and we're very happy that we have all of these things that patients can progress towards after they're done with us.
I think that's awesome, because so many times I remember treating patients and we didn't have all these other additional services in our practice. We incorporated massage at one time, I remember that, but it was there was so many times where you're like, oh, I need to refer this person to massage therapy, or it would be great if this person kept on and they got it. We tell people all the time, like, hey, start a yoga class, right? Go to your gym, but that can be, they know you, they're familiar, they're comfortable with you because you've helped them get to a certain level. And then for them to be able to go to a gym, they might not be comfortable going into that kind of, scenario, or it might be like too big of a step for them. So I think being able to offer that in your clinic is a great natural transition for so many patients when we want them to continue on with, they've gotten to a certain point, but we know that they can go a little bit further and maintain also what they have, right? So I love that you've incorporated these other programs in there. And so what would you say is kind of speaking along those lines, what would you say is your main purpose for adding those programs in?
Yeah, so it came about mainly because we needed to basically offer a need that wasn't easily accessible or out there. And like you mentioned before, the patients really don't feel comfortable going to a gym. It's a huge transition leap from rehab to just fitness,
Mm-hmm.
And if they're still not 100%, there's no way that they're going to be motivated to do that on their own, number one. Number two, being able to, do it safely on their own. And number three, being consistent. So in offering these kind of programs, they're not only comfortable because they've been here, they know the therapists that are working with them, but then also they're motivated because they're assigned a time and place to be. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and they paid cash, and then most of them had paid up front, so they're not going to miss.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so
so
you
that
can
was
definitely get
the
to.
initial motivation. And of course, yes, a second stream of income, and especially cash pay income, was another source of motivation for that. It's just not our primary bread and butter. Our primary bread and butter really is, PT, rehab
Mhm.
based through insurance. So,
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like if you're a physical therapist, practice owner out there, stick to what you know well, right? That should always be your core offering, your core service, right? But what can you complement to that, right? And I think you've done a very good job of complementing what you currently offer, and you saw that need to be able to offer more to your customers, right? And by adding these other services on, and so. Um, I'm curious in terms of for practice owners that are thinking out there, like, yeah, I should add some different services on there. What could I do? What kind of things did you have to overcome in terms of like space, staffing? I'm just kind of curious, like how you maybe started out with it, like, and expanded. Like, what did you do there?
yeah. So when I opened my clinic 5 years ago, I started already with Pilates and massage and yoga. And mainly because of the fact that those were also the things that I was already trained in, and I had a therapist already doing the massage that came with me. So it was kind of an easy implementation. When you add in a program that requires a fun equipment like the Pilates reformer and stuff, you get a lot more interest. And so it was really easy to market that, and people just started coming. It was a service that wasn't readily available. And so now it seems, everywhere I look now, there's Pilates and yoga. But 5 years ago, even, it just wasn't easily accessible for patients. So
Mhm.
I started with that, and it was just me initially and a front desk. And so I had all the spacing and whatever in the world. But then I grew pretty quickly, and then spacing became an issue. And so I have, you're dealing with it's like a good painful growth. You're dealing with spacing issues. You're dealing with the need for the program. More people are asking for it, but you don't have the staffing for it. And so that's kind of where I'm at is, trying to find more staff that are interested in this. Because one of the other things that I'm finding out is that, you can't just want a program and then try to train someone to do it if they're not interested in doing it. And my time is actually better spent not necessarily running these cash pay programs, as I can get paid more per visit rate than I can doing the cash programs. And so the goal was to train the assistants who didn't necessarily fill their schedules because they can't take evals, right? So the intent was to try to get them trained. And then once I found out what they wanted to do, it was really easy to get them trained in it and certified in it. And now they basically run the program. So it's really
Oh,
hands off for me now.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
So you have a blend of actual physical therapists, physical therapy assistants that then are also certified, say, in Pilates or yoga and delivering those services.
Yes, I would
Oh,
definitely go that route. You can really tell when someone's not comfortable or confident in a training if they're not certified necessarily in it and or comfortable in doing it. And, believe it or not, some patients, once they start paying cash, it matters because they want people who are skilled. They want people with the credentials. They look for all the initials after your name. And so, when it comes to cash, it's almost a little bit harder because you can't really just have anybody just sell that program. So
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think that would be critical too. Like if you're a practice owner out there and you're thinking about adding on additional service, wellness programs to your clinic, I think it is about finding the right people. So either you can develop your people internally and have them, if they have an interest in that, it's an opportunity for them to grow, right? And take charge of a program. I think the key would be to not have it on yourself, right? To be able to be part of it, but not like, you don't definitely want to put that on your shoulders because you have enough on your shoulders already as a practice owner. But maybe there are some very skilled yoga instructors that that would want to come and start working for you, right? Or Pilates instructors, right? That already have a very good history. And I think you have to do your due diligence and just don't hire anybody into that's going to represent your clinic, right?
correct. Yeah. And there's like I've in the past done where I've had contracted therapists and or clinicians that would do things like massage or yoga and fitness and whatnot. But you just have to decide if you want to carry them on as an employee and benefit them, or if you want to just contract them out and basically have them pay you rent for space and so forth. But it really does, make a huge difference who the person is running that program. So finding the right people is absolute key.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I think you did say that these particular programs, they are cash pay programs.
Correct.
Yeah. And so are they like packages, or do you do like monthly memberships? What do you find that works for you?
Yeah, so what has worked is usually they come in with an initial assessment, and based off of that, if they're a good candidate for the wellness program, then they can go and purchase a package plan. And that package could be 6 sessions, 12 sessions, 20 sessions. It really depends. And I find that works better because, again, because it's one-on-one with the therapist, they need to have that specific time scheduled. And again, when they pay in advance, they're going to come. And
Right.
The problem with the monthly memberships is that I didn't always have, especially right after COVID when it was so busy and people were coming back, I didn't have openings for some of these monthly memberships. And so it just was very difficult for people to get in. And so it didn't really pan out the way that I wanted it to. Ultimately, I think that's the perfect way to go. But again, that requires space that you don't have and staffing that I don't have and so forth.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that. And I think that's a really good piece of information for, again, I'm a big advocate for membership programs in your practice because it's reoccurring revenue, right?
Correct.
And if you look at a lot of services now that are out there, your massage envies, your stretch labs, like they're all they're all membership based because people use them and then they don't use them, right? And that's kind of like how gift cards work, like what was it, like 60% of the people actually use the gift cards that they get. So it's one of those things where you have the recurring membership, but I think it's really important what you said is that you have to be prepared to deliver, right? And so you don't want to get into a position where you can't offer time slots to people and they can't get in, and then there's frustrations, and that doesn't help your public image, so I can see where that would go for sure. But I think it's also a great way to get your dip your toe in the water is sell some packages. We did that in our practice too. We had cash packages, and of course you can give a little bit discount if they pay for 10 or 12 up front. But I think there's so much that can be done and so much that we can offer in our practices. And I think you're doing it and, and succeeded in that. So it's really exciting to see where you started from and now like what you got and what you can create there into the future with that. So I think you were telling me about this before, but in terms of the revenue, you said this wasn't like your bread and butter. So like what portion do you think of the wellness programs is, contributing to your practice revenue?
Right. So probably closer to 10 to 15%, depending on the month, and just sometimes like during the holiday season, we get a lot more people coming in for massage and stretch programs and Pilates and whatnot. And like after December, January, there's a little bit of a lull, but then everybody's trying to get their fitness back. So now it's crazy again. So it varies, but it's about 10 to 15% of our total revenue.
Excellent. Great. And I think that's, what you're saying before, keep PT your core thing, right? But then can you supplement onto that? So it's today where we know that we're fighting against utilization and reimbursement, and do we continue to just try to fight against the insurance companies or fight against Congress for Medicare, right? Or can we start to think a little bit outside the box and move part of what we do towards cash pay, right, in certain instances? So I think you're doing the absolute right thing here. And again, I saw this with a lot of the Canadian clients that we work with, the Canadian clinics. They've been doing this for decades, right, where they have a very integrated approach to how they're treating patients. And what I love to see is that in the States, we're actually starting to catch up with that a bit more. We're seeing more and more clinics that are really embracing that holistic approach and bringing in other services for clients. So obviously, Christi, you have a ton on your plate as a practice owner. So who runs these programs?
They're all ran mostly by my PTAs, like I mentioned, the goal being that we keep their schedule as full as possible. It's really easy to fill a PT schedule right now with evals. And so they are not necessarily my first go-to, although they do run a few of the specialty programs. But majority of it is ran by my PT assistants, and I have 3 of them. Plus my massage therapist is also PT assistant. So I have technically 4 of them running all of these cash programs. And because it's something that they developed and they have a niche, that they want to create, they are running it pretty much on their own. I think between them doing the program and you guys helping me with, all the marketing for it, I don't really do much. I think I've set a few dates here and there, and that's about it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's key too, is like you have to have oversight in terms of the programs that you want to implement into your practice, but you can't expect to handle a launch of a program, and I think that's one of the challenges in being a practice owner, is that you can handle a lot of stuff, right? That's what you do, right? As an entrepreneur, you can operate at a very high level, but you become the bottleneck at some point, right? And if you want to run these kind of programs in there, who can you have help you to run it, right? And you have oversight on it. But I think that's really the key thing, is to make sure that you're not just trying to add on a different program and run it all yourself, because then you're going to just
I've done that in the past, and I don't recommend.
You learn from your mistakes, right?
Exactly. I mean, I am the one person that can do every single one of these programs and also all the specialty PT programs, but that's kind of the unique thing, is that I can just come in and fill for anyone if they're sick or, on vacation or whatever. But I do not want to be running any one particular anything that is occupying my entire time if I can avoid it. So.
Absolutely. And so, you have a lot of cool programs here that you're running in your clinic. How do you market those wellness programs? How do people hear about it?
Yeah, so majority of that is online through either social media accounts and or in-house advertising. We have 3 giant TV monitors, and it cycles through all of the specialty programs that we have. And then it also helps significantly with using you guys with the email campaigns and whatnot. And then, the entire patient management software program that you guys have recently implemented. That's another source. So we get some of our old returning patients and clients and current clients involved as well. There's a lot of word of mouth. We also have this giant vinyl signage on our brick and mortar windows. And believe it or not, a good chunk of patients walk in going, what is this program that you offer? Weight management, what is that? And so they see it and read it. Just so happens to be in a location where we have a lot of other stores nearby. So we have a lot of foot traffic. And then I did initially, when I first opened my clinic, I was heavily involved in a lot of community-based programs. So there's like the Normandy Park Community Center, there's the Des Moines Community Center, Beering Community Centers, and I went and presented at all of those. I did a little advertising in all other magazines or quarterly magazines. And I also did mailers through you guys, and then also joined the Chamber of Commerce and then the BNI Business Network International groups. So a lot of connections that way. So, in the beginning, a lot of those, specific variety of advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
Now I do nothing. I let you guys take care of all the emailers and website and Google and all that. And I just sit back and wait for people to call.
That's a good thing to have, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, so do you find for the wellness programs, would you say the majority of people come in for obviously like under the regular PT umbrella, and then they go, oh, wow, I didn't know you offered weight loss programs or yoga programs. Is that typically how it happens?
I would say 80% of our cash pay programs are former or current patients, and they happen to hear about it, read about it, or find out about it. The other 20%, we do get random people calling and asking, I just Googled and you guys popped up, or just, searched and you guys popped up. Can you tell me more about the program? And so, yeah, we get about 20% of the population that come in that way.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's another way that you can get people, they're interested in, let's say, yoga, but they didn't, then they, hey, I've got a knee pain here. Can I get in to see a therapist, right? And we all know how that works in the clinic, where people come across us all the time that way. So I like it because it's a referral mechanism both ways. Predominantly, I would say probably from the PT side to the wellness side, but then you still have that opportunity the other way too, which is really neat. And so, when you got your practice initially going here, how did you kind of first start that? How did you initially market your practice to get some traction?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, it's changed my life completely because this company, when I opened 5 years ago, I decided I was not going to do door-to-door marketing to any doctors anymore. And I decided pretty much it was going to be all online, and just needed to partner up with a marketing company that would get us on the, SEO optimization. And so that's what I did mostly, is the Google searches, SEO optimization, and a lot of word of mouth. I've been in the community, 20 years. And so it's interesting because when I left my last practice, I didn't really tell anybody where I was going, but they have this amazing tool called the internet, and they can search you. And a lot of them did. And they would call and they were like, is this where Christi Riley is? And they basically were like, I found you.
That's great.
And they came. So, yeah, they just, they know when they have experienced a good therapist or a good facility versus some of the corporate, unfortunately turned into mills, and they're seeing a different PT every time, or a different therapist, or maybe not even a therapist, So they come looking for it. So now it's pretty much all of that. And I did recently start some Google ads, which is all new to me. But I heavily believe that if I want to keep the company going the way it's going, and we've been growing every year since I started, that we need to keep up with the marketing end. And, you got to pay for what you, need, and we need good commercial insurance-based patients. And so that's what we target now. So
awesome. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. It's there, you can call out the commercial insurances that you want to work with, right? And you should have those on your website, and obviously you can put that in your ads. And I think that's a nice thing too with Google Ads, is that it's changed so much over the years, right? So again, I would say before COVID, SEO was really a big driver, and you did have ads; those were very important too. But over the years, what we've seen is that SEO is important, but not as important as Google Ads is today. So it's really, if you're not doing Google Ads, you're not managing them very well. You're trying to do it yourself. You need some expert help there, and that could really make sure that you're getting the patients in for a very low cost advertising that you're doing with that. And the nice thing with Google Ads too is it's really, people are searching for some kind of advice solution. It's an intent based there, whereas social media is great, has definitely a fit in your marketing, but people are scrolling on there for entertainment and then they come across your ads. So it's just a different way that people are experiencing it. And I do think that overall Google Ads can give you the kind of patients that you want, and overall I think a little bit lower cost than you would with social media. But it's good to have both for sure. And so just curious for you, like, what has been your overall experience working with practice promotions?
Oh, my group of people are great. They keep me on my toes. I do feel horrible sometimes when I don't answer and respond to emails as quickly as I'd like. But the fact that they are so organized and so professional, and they know their stuff, so it's been great. And I haven't had any complaints. I get, the monthly stats and I get the quarterly reports, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is great. And then I'd be like, what is the industry standard? Because I have no idea if this is great or not. And so they just keep applauding everything that we're doing. They make great suggestions, which is another thing too, because me not really being in marketing, and especially in an online digital media way, it's like I don't really know what I don't know. And so it's really great to have the resources and the people telling me, those pictures are not as good as these pictures, and you send me these pictures, and video's great. And so yeah, I mean, I can definitely improve the quality of stuff that I'm sending to practice promotions, but I just don't have the time. And now I know that I need to hire one more person to do all of that for me. So I can
There you
get them
go. It's time to
all of
level
that
up.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's great, because you've been, congratulations on what you've been able to do and accomplish, and you've really built your business up, right? So you're realizing, like, you're growing, you're delegating, right? You're delegating these different programs and stuff. And so I think that is something for practice owners, that there comes that point where marketing is a critical function inside of your practice, right? And so again, you can't do it all as a practice owner. You need good oversight on that. You need to know what's happening, how things go, and you can give your input from a practice owner and physical therapist point of view, but you need someone in there helping you, because there's 1,000,001 marketing actions that need to be done within the clinic, and also, obviously from a digital side too, that vendor like Practice Promotions can help support there. But having that person to get testimonials from patients, to work an event, right, or whatever that needs to be done there. Yeah, it's part of leveling up the business, right?
Correct.
So I'm curious for you, obviously you started out doing almost everything there, and then, do you still treat patients in the clinic? And so kind of how do you split your time up as a business owner?
I strongly believe that if I'm going to ask and demand my staff, my clinicians, to do what I want them to do, that I also have to be in their reality and be able to produce that same thing. And so I do practice 2 days a week. Also, my cult-like following of patients would probably kill me if I stopped practicing, so I do. But then I spend now 3 days a week doing all the administrative stuff so that I can run the practice and not be working in the practice, but on the practice. So
Yeah, I think that's really a wonderful point of view there. And it's something that, if you do it because you enjoy it, right? And you love to do it. And like you say, you have a good pulse on what's happening there. And the majority of your time, 3 days a week, right, is working on the business, right? And working those programs, but then, having the treatment side of it. And I have a friend, Mike, he had I think about maybe an 8 or 10 location practice in the Northeast, and he still treated like 20, maybe 15, 20 hours a week, because he loved it. He loved enjoying that. But then, of course, running a big practice like that. He did the admin side of it. So I think it's one of those things you can treat when you want to, right? And you can get yourself into position as a practice owner that you're doing that versus having to. That's a different story, right? Yeah. And so, Christi, lots of great advice here today. Thank you so much. Just kind of, if you could give any advice to our listeners out there, if they're a practice owner, what would be one simple thing that they could do to, take back control of their business?
Yeah, if you're a practice owner, I always go back to my original mission and vision and values, just to make sure that whatever decision I make aligns with that. I want to stay very true and consistent with that. So definitely remembering that and going back to that and using that to make all your decisions, but also outsourcing everything that I don't need to be involved in and or don't want to be involved in or don't have the expertise to be involved in. There were a lot of moments where I was like, oh, I can do billing, I would do it and I'd be like, why did I get to that? And the amount of time and energy and put it into that, I just was like, oh, this is so horrible. So, everything that I can outsource, I actually do. I pretty much don't do much in-house anymore except for treat and obviously run the company. But I outsource credentialing and billing and, every other aspect. HR is outsourced. Marketing is outsourced. IT is everything that I am not needing to be involved in, I outsource. And that's how you buy back your time. And then that way I can put my time back into either growing the company, which seems to be the thing that I am doing nonstop, or, really listening to my staff and reinventing the wheel on certain things that isn't working for them either, So we've implemented a lot of software system. I am not a huge technology fan, but when it works amazing. So I do believe that it has helped us launch ourselves to the next category of healthcare providing that we can do, because now we have all this software helping us do it. Communicating with our patients is key. And so, yeah, I would never have, visited any of that had I not had the time to do all that. So
fantastic. Yeah, that's such a great point. Like, you got to give yourself the time to do that, right? And give yourself the time to be the visionary, to think, to figure things out, guide the direction of your clinic. And you just can't do that if you're treating patients all day long and trying to do that on top of everything else, right? So there's times we got to bootstrap it, we got to go for it, right? And we got to, get it off the ground. But then there comes a point where, you're doing the most practical thing possible, which is to delegate, right? And bring in the experts who can help you support you in those areas. So, fantastic job on that. And so, Christi, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Congratulations on your practice and your growth there, and for really taking the lead here on building wellness programs into your practice. I think that's a fantastic model for a lot of clinics to follow out there. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for helping me unload one of the largest burdens I've had, and that's digital marketing.
I'm glad that we could help you with that. Awesome. Fantastic. So thank you again, Christi. To all our listeners out there, don't forget, check out Kintsugi Physical Therapy in Normandy Park, Washington. They got a great website. You can really see a lot of what they're doing with their wellness programs and the amazing growth that they've done with that. Again, don't forget to follow our podcast here, subscribe to it, subscribe to our YouTube channel too. We got lots of great advice for you on there, and practicepromotions.net. Lots of free downloads for you and marketing tips on that. So thank you, everybody, for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. This is Neil Trickett here with Practice Promotions, and wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click Write a Review. Thanks.